Hello people of YouTube, it's Deepak here and welcome to DCS World 2.5.6 and Razbam Sims AV8B Harrier module. Welcome to Tutorial 9, Laser Guided Bombs. Today I'm going to demonstrate the employment of Paveway 2 class laser guided bombs, specifically the GBU-12 and GBU-16, which are the two types that you can carry on the Harrier. These are guidance kits, very similar to the JDAM, which comprise of a nose-mounted laser seeker and steerable fins on the back of the bomb. And the GBU-12 is a 500-pound weapon, and in this installation you can see that I've got them on the middle pylons, 2 each. Those are 500-pounders based on the Mark 82. And then on the inner pylons I have single GBU-16s, which are 1,000-pound bombs derived from the Mark 83. And you can see those kits are quite sizable. Keep in mind that this is a technology derived, deployed originally in 1976. So these have been around for a while, but very reliable and very accurate when employed correctly. So, I'm going to jump in the aircraft now and get it started up, and I will then show you the setup of these weapons. See you then. Okay, you join us now back in the cockpit post-startup, and I'm going to quickly go over the configuration of these weapons before we make our way to the range. So, here on the left MPCD I'm going to choose Menu and then Stores. And we're presented with the standard wing form here. Today, as you saw in the outside view, I have double rack GBU-12s on the middle pylons, indicated here, and I have single GBU-16s on the inner pylons. I'm also carrying the targeting pod, T-pod, because we're going to need to be able to self-designate for these weapons, and I'm also carrying the cannon with 300 rounds, but we're not going to be using that today. So first let's set up the GBU-16s. I'm going to drop those first. I'm going to choose the 16 profile at the top. Actually, if I switch to air to ground mode, then we get the actual boxing, which makes this easier. And you see a summary of the profile at the bottom here. Mode automatic is what we're going to leave it in. Automatic is synonymous with CCRP. So when you're dropping these weapons, it is actually possible to do them in CCIP, but that doesn't really make much sense, because if you're doing CCIP you're generally diving towards the target and you're closer to it, and you're not going to have time to laze. We really need CCRP, or automatic mode, for these weapons. You'll notice that my ODU options have disappeared. I can bring them back by clicking Weapon on the UFC. So quantity, we're going to drop them in singles, because that's what makes the most sense. It is possible to do multiple drops, and in fact what you can even do is you could drop 2 laser guided bombs with a short interval between them against 2 different targets, but you would need to be able to wait for the first one to hit and then quickly slew your targeting pod over the next one. That's a more advanced tactic. We're not going to do that today. So quantity 1, multiples 1, intervals 0, we're just going to be dropping singles, and then the most important thing is the fuse. We're going to go for nose tail instantaneous. If that's an option. That's actually not an option with these. We've got tail instantaneous. Oh, of course, there is no nose fuse in the laser guided bombs, because in the place of the nose fuse is the laser seeker. So we only have tail fuses. So we can have instantaneous, we can have delay 1 or delay 2. We're going to go for tail instantaneous. That makes the most sense for us. And that is now the GBU-16's setup. Let's go to the 12s, and for the 12s we're going to use the same setup. Quantity 1, multiples 1, interval 0, and fusing tail instantaneous. Okay, I'm going to leave the 16s selected, because those are the ones we're going to drop first, and I'm going to return to VStall mode. Okay, so next you'll join me en route to the range, and I'll show you how to drop these weapons. Okay, so you join us again, inbound the range. I've got waypoint 5 selected, which is our southern bomb circle, and I'll now demonstrate how we put these bombs on target. So first things first, we're going to enter air to ground mode. We're going to, and actually as soon as we do that we see G automatic. I'm going to turn on the master arm and G automatic stops flashing, and you can see here on our EHSD that the GBU-16s are already selected because we left them selected before. Now, we could of course bring up the targeting pod and search for our target and get ready to laser designate. However, there's an easier way. In the event that you actually have a waypoint over your target, you can of course go to your EHSD and you can use the designate option. So I can press, well, with waypoint 5 selected, which I have, I can press designate and it says designated steer point. We have the diamond over the target. This now means that once we turn on the targeting pod, it should already be looking at that location. So that's one simplification that we can make to this procedure. Of course, in the event that you don't have a waypoint over your target, you just turn on the targeting pod and slew it over your target. So now I'm going to go to the right MPCD and I'm going to go menu, T-pod, and as I demonstrated in the previous video, we need to first program the laser code for the T-pod. So let's press sensor select switch aft, and here we go, here's our DMT. We're going to press code, and we're going to enter the usual 1688, enter. And that means the laser designator code will now coincide with what the laser guided bombs are looking for. And actually you can see straight away that my target point is definitely in the correct location, because through the DMT here we're looking at the targeting circle. So that's a nice confirmation there. Anyway, let's go menu, T-pod, and we can confirm 1688, and currently we are controlling the TV, or the DMT. Let's bring the pod out to standby, and immediately it's looking at the southern bomb circle. So we've made our lives very simple here. Now, just for simplicity's sake, let's double tap sensor select switch down, and we're now in T-pod control mode. And I can now control the T-pod using my HOTAS. That's going to make my life a lot easier. Let's switch the camera to FLIR. So we're going to do a sensor select switch right long. There we go. And I'm then going to press right short to change the polarity. That might make it a little bit easier for us to see what we're doing. I'm then going to press sensor select switch left short, and we then get the narrow field of view. And at this stage we can really confirm that what we're looking at is the thing we want to be looking at. I'm just going to see, do the gain settings here work? No, they don't. Okay, fair enough. Cool, that's good. So yeah, we're definitely looking at the correct target here. We have the correct laser code. We're now going to bring the laser out of safe. We want to make sure that it's in the correct mode. It's currently in training. We want to make sure it's in laser mode. That's confirmed with an L down here. That's great. And the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pod into area track, because right now it's slaved to the DMT. I want it to be tracking in its own right. So I can do that by pressing sensor select switch aft short, and we're now in area track mode. So the pod will now continue to track this point no matter what happens. Let me just check that there's nothing else we need to do here. I think that basically everything else is in order. So pod is now set up, ready for the drop. Let's take a little look at the symbology we now have on the HUD. So straight away the HUD is in G automatic mode. We have ourselves here a steering line which we need to maintain. We have the hexagon showing where the laser targeting pod is looking, and we have the diamond showing our current target point. Those are co-located in this instance. We have range to target, and we have the number of seconds until the drop. I'm going to undo the active pause just now. Oops, I dropped out of autopilot like a madman there. And we're now going to fly towards that target, and we want to maintain the flight path marker on the steering line. Once we get a little bit closer, of course, we're going to turn on the laser, and at that stage the L will start flashing. I'm going to accelerate time very slightly, just so that you guys are not left waiting. This, of course, makes flying the plane a little bit tricky, but I'll try not to bounce around too much. Okay, I'm going to put it back into real time. The laser targeting pod, the targeting pod symbol is now flashing. That's simply to let us know that it's outside the field of view of the HUD. That's actually perfectly okay, and we now have just a little bit longer to run. So I will drop the bombs as normal, and then I'll wait a few seconds, and then I'll turn on the laser. You don't normally turn the laser on immediately, because the worry is that initially the bomb is going to be dropping kind of ballistically, and if you turn on the laser too early, it might start doing some abrupt movements which will reduce its energy, and it might then have a harder time reaching the target. Okay, See that flashing symbol at the bottom. I'm going to try and maintain my flight path marker on the horizon line and going straight through the steering line. It doesn't particularly matter, of course, because this is a guided weapon, but we want to give it the best chance possible by getting it as close to the target ballistically as we can. Of course, if you fly faster and higher, you can drop the weapons at greater ranges. You can see I'm really quite close to the target here because I'm flying quite low. So 5 seconds, I've got the bar, I'm going to start holding the pickle. Bar's coming down, GBU away, release the pickle. I'm now going to put the aircraft on autopilot and I'm going to fire the laser. And now let's watch, see what the bomb does. This bomb, actually all of the laser guided bombs use what is called bang bang guidance, which means they don't smoothly guide towards the target, they do full deflections of their control surfaces only. And this is because the electronics are simpler. And there you go, look at that. Shack. That was a direct hit. Oh, and yeah, the aircraft is a little unbalanced now, of course. I'm going to turn off the laser because you can eventually burn out the laser. Aircraft is a little unbalanced because now I've got an 1,000-pound bomb on one side only. So anyway, I'm going to fly away from the target. As usual, I've got my steering arrow and I've got my icon here indicating the direction towards the target. I'm going to switch to the GPU-12. You're going to see that the process with the GPU-12 is exactly the same, but we're going to drop one of those as well anyway, just for completeness, so you've seen both. So I'm going to let myself get back out to about 10 miles, and I'm going to turn around and re-attack. And I'll increase throttle a little bit to get us there quicker. You can see in the targeting pod that we're currently occluded. Now, the view to the target is actually included by the targeting pod's own body. The camera is turned all the way around and it's basically looking inside itself. That's why the screen is black. So that's perfectly normal, we don't mind that. Right, let's start our turn here actually. And actually what I should have done, in fact, is put the targeting pod into inertial mode before losing sight of the target, just to guarantee that it will return exactly on target. It normally does, but you can have it drift a little bit. But if we have to, we can slew it back on target. And I could have done that by pressing sensor select switch aft long. But you can see here actually, yeah, it's returned bang on target, so that's not too bad. If it had been out of view for longer and I'd done a lot of manoeuvring, there's a decent chance that it would have been at least a little bit off target. So here we go, I've got my steering line back again. Need to apply a little bit more right stick now because I've got this unbalanced load, but that's okay. And we're approaching 20 seconds to drop. Ten seconds. Keep this. Oh, there we go. We've got the drop line, holding pickle. Chunk, GBU away. That's actually balanced me a little bit better. And now I'm going to fire the laser. And let's watch our bomb going down. And this will look almost exactly the same as the GPU-16. The only difference is, actually the nose and the tail kits are identical between these two bombs, but of course the body of the bomb on this one is smaller. This is only a 500-pound bomb. And you can see that bang bang guidance there. It's kind of flipping itself around. Oops. Boom. There we go. I controlled the camera badly. And that was a shack. And that's confirmed on the targeting pod there. So we turn off the laser and we are done. So I hope that you all enjoyed that. That's how you deploy laser guided bombs in the Harrier. See you all next time.